Let me tell you about the time I felt like I was part of an after school special. Tonight for dinner, because it's football season, I have mashed potatoes that I made, chili, and I have tons of green pepper in here. I don't put cheese on top, but I did put a lot of hot sauce. In case you don't know what after school specials are, they came on after school, and it would be like a lesson for teens. It would be about, abuse or drugs, things like that. A little too much hot sauce. Two things to point out before I tell this story is my good friend, it's about her, and she passed away many years ago. I messaged her sister today, and I asked her if she would be okay if I told the story, and she basically said, hell yes. Two, I'm changing the names of both characters of the story because they have both passed away. I met Jessica in 4th grade, and we were fast friends, even though we were completely opposite. She was beautiful. Sorry, I'm going to get through this inside and out. In high school, we remained close, but was still so opposite. She was a hippie. I was a Christian. She loved the Doors. I loved heavy metal. Had a great core group of friends. We sat at lunch together like all 4 years. We were not in the popular group at all, but we were kind of friends with everybody, if that makes sense. I don't remember anybody not liking Jessica. So I finally get my driver's license, I get my own car, and she lives close by. I want to hang out, so I drove over to her house, and she never wants to go anywhere. She just always wants to stay home, and I didn't really understand it at the time, but I'm like, yeah, okay, we can just hang out here. I mean, I loved her family, so it was fine. But come 9, 10 o'clock, she was like, okay, you need to leave. You need to go home. I'm like, okay, like who wants to kick out their friend? So I send something's up, and I even talked to my group of friends that we're all mutual friends with, and nobody understands, but they're like, yeah, there is something up with her. I just don't know what. So I ask her, I'm like, hey, something's going on. Why don't you want to hang out? Why do you always want to stay home? What are you waiting for? Is there a boy calling? She said, I'm dating somebody from our high school, but you're actually not going to believe who it is. She tells me she's dating Robert. Robert is like the most popular boy in our school. He would never even look in our direction. Like, if you were a boy on the swim team, at least in our school, you were a popular boy. I didn't like Robert just for the fact that my friend was on the swim team and he wasn't out at the time, and he felt like this guy was being rude to him. So that's why I didn't like him. But other than that, I didn't really have any interaction with him other than thinking he was thought he was the coolest guy ever. His family was rich. He was good looking. He was athletic. I will give him that. This is truly the part where I don't come off that great because I didn't believe her. That's why I felt like it was an after school special. She proceeds to tell me that they started talking in class and they start secretly dating, but he doesn't want anybody to know because he is going to eventually break up with his girlfriend. And he comes to her house every night after practice, and they basically hook up. Jessica did not have many flaws, but her two biggest flaws were low confidence, which is crazy because she was beautiful, and two, picking the worst boys for sure. I never liked any of her boyfriends. I mean, she could see I don't believe her. I'm like, why would this happen? It just doesn't make sense. You're total opposite. Why? It just didn't. Nothing to it seemed real to me. Like I said, I felt like I was in an after school special, this football swimming jock is hooking up with my friend, and we were just in a crowd where nobody really noticed us. I honestly feel like I'm describing a teenage movie. The jock, he falls in love with the really attractive girl, but she's not popular, and then they fall in love and live happily ever after. That is not this story. Of course, this was bound to happen, but I go over her house. I'm sort of believing her now, but don't you know, he starts coming through her window of her bedroom. Her window. He sees me and he's like, oh, shit. It was one of those moments where I was so angry that I said so many things that I actually don't remember what I said, but I just freaked out on him and he ran off, and then she was like, okay, now it's real. And I'm like, I can't believe this, and I tell our friend group, which some of them knew, but we actually kept secrets, and I'm like, look, we have to do something, an intervention. She cannot be with this guy. He is using her. I usually have a rule of only eating half. We told her all the things you would tell, your best friend for doing anything like that. You need to get out, you need to not do this. And so she said she was going to talk to him that night. She didn't want to do anything, and of course he did. You know, she told him, like, you can't ignore me in school. You have to break up with your girlfriend. You need to tell everybody that we're dating, we're a couple, because she's thinking they're a couple. He reacts like you would expect him to and is really awful and rude to her and leaves. And this is where she takes revenge. So he was a very superficial kid because, you know, his parents had money, and he got a new suede jacket from Wilson's Leather in Century 3 Mall. This part of the story was with my other friends because I was not in that homeroom, but I'm going to tell it. Jessica brings in maple syrup. This huge bottle of Mrs. Butterworth in her backpack, and she shows our other friend and was like, I got this. A hall pass. The one is a lookout for any of the teachers. They break into the locker, and she just goes crazy with the syrup all over his jacket. You know, she tells us what happens. It smells like pancakes basically and breakfast in the whole hallway. All gather around our friend group at the end of the day, and we just watch him get his new jacket, and he's so mad. He's slamming the locker. I mean, he's just like trying to hide it. He's not telling anybody, nobody. He didn't tell anybody what happened. I'm sure he knows who did it. And I kept the secret, but, you know, anytime I would see him in the hall or the walking down, I'd be like, does anybody want breakfast? Does anybody want pancakes? I would like some syrup. I mean, we just couldn't help it. She passed away a few years after high school, and unfortunately, I ran into him in some bar in Pittsburgh. He was dating like somebody I actually liked that I grew up with in my neighborhood, who was a babysitter to my brother and sister, and I just couldn't believe that she was with him. Everybody knew that Jessica passed away, so I can't imagine that he hadn't heard that. And in true douchebag form, because I was trying not to even look at him, I was just talking to my friend like, really, are you here with him? Okay. He said, how's Jessica? I didn't even respond. He even brought up something awful about me, so I just left that situation. It's just crazy to me that all these years later, every once in a while, I'll see something posted about Robert, and everybody thought he was like this great popular guy, and they just had no idea that he had a dirty little secret and violent and just not a good guy. But our friend Jessica was the best, and we honor her to this day. And I've wanted to tell this story so many times, but I didn't think I could do it without crying, and I got through it.